On a Monday morning in February 2003, workers entered one of Europe's most heavily protected diamond buildings and discovered devastation underground. More than 100 private safe deposit boxes had been emptied. Diamonds, gold, jewellery, cash and securities, estimated at approximately $100 million, had vanished. No guard had confronted the thieves, no alarm had stopped them, and the stolen valuables would never be recovered. The question that paralyzed investigators was not simply who had done this, it was how anyone had managed it at all. Before this investigation ends, we will uncover the years of quiet deception that placed the gang inside the building, and the ordinary piece of rubbish that destroyed what might otherwise have been a perfect crime. February 17, 2003, began inside Antwerp's Diamond District, like the start of any working week. Dealers arrived carrying briefcases. Security personnel returned to their stations. Businesses prepared for transactions involving some of the world's most valuable stones. Then workers reached the underground vault of the Antwerp Diamond Centre, and what they found appeared almost impossible. Rows of safe deposit boxes had been forced open and emptied. Documents, damaged containers and valuables the thieves had abandoned were scattered across the floor. Contemporary reporting stated that 123 of approximately 160 boxes had been opened. Authorities initially struggled to calculate the loss because individual dealers stored privately owned diamonds, jewellery, cash, gold, and securities inside their boxes. There was no reported confrontation, no injured guard, no dramatic pursuit through Antwerp. The thieves had entered over the weekend, worked inside the building, and departed before anyone understood that the vault had been compromised. For the victims, the theft was not merely a number approaching $100 million. It represented inventories, family businesses, and years of accumulated wealth disappearing behind a door that had been sold to them as secure. The first mystery was not which boxes had been opened, it was how the thieves had reached them. This building stood inside one of Belgium's most heavily monitored commercial districts. Security had been designed around exactly this kind of attack. But the crew had not arrived as strangers. One of them had already spent years becoming part of the building. Leonardo Notarbartolo was an Italian jewellery dealer with connections to Turin. In November 2000, more than 2 years before the robbery, he rented office space inside the Antwerp Diamond Centre. He presented himself as a legitimate diamond merchant. He conducted business, he possessed access credentials, and he rented a safe deposit box inside the same vault that would later be robbed. To security personnel and neighbouring traders, he was not an intruder studying the building from outside. He was a tenant. This patient infiltration provided something more valuable than any tool: routine. Notarbartolo could observe when traders entered the vault, when guards changed position, and how the building behaved during evenings and weekends. Investigators believed the group spent more than 2 years preparing, and the gang became associated with a network of highly skilled Italian thieves, sometimes described as the School of Turin, whose members were believed to possess specialized knowledge of locks, alarms, electronics, and surveillance. The underground chamber was protected by several overlapping systems. Reports consistently identify surveillance, movement detection, heat and infrared monitoring, magnetic protection, and a high-security locking system. The principle was straightforward. If one safeguard failed, another should still detect the intruder. The building had guards, controlled entrances, and extensive monitoring. The vault door itself was built to resist violence and forced entry, yet physical strength was not the gang's strategy. According to investigators, the thieves studied the system long enough to identify how its components could be neutralized or avoided without triggering a general alarm. Some later accounts describe copied keys, compromised surveillance, and carefully shielded sensors. though not every operational detail has been independently established. What can be confirmed is that the vault was opened without an obvious explosive breach, and that the security systems failed to produce an effective response while the crime was underway. The heist became famous partly because later versions made the crew appear almost superhuman. But complex security often fails through a chain of smaller weaknesses, predictable routines, excessive trust, and unchallenged access. The gang's greatest achievement may not have been defeating one impossible device. It may have been understanding how the devices depended on one another. Investigators placed the robbery during the weekend of February 15 and 16. Dealers had placed valuables inside their boxes before leaving for the weekend. The building became quieter, and the gang began the operation it had spent years preparing. The thieves entered the building without attracting an effective response from security. They reached the underground level and gained access to the vault. Once inside, the operation changed from stealth to time. Rows of deposit boxes had to be opened, valuables had to be examined, selected, and packed. The crew emptied more than 100 boxes, leaving some objects behind as they moved through the chamber. The estimated haul included polished and uncut diamonds, gold, jewellery, cash, and financial documents. The thieves also removed or interfered with surveillance material, further complicating investigators' ability to reconstruct their movements. By the time the operation ended, the vault that had been marketed as one of Europe's safest was filled with damaged boxes and abandoned debris. No alarm had produced a timely police response. No guard had stopped them. By Monday morning, the crew had vanished. At this moment, the heist appeared almost perfect. The criminals had spent years gaining trust and hours defeating security. They had escaped with a fortune without firing a weapon. But after leaving Antwerp, they made a decision entirely unrelated to locks, sensors, or surveillance. They disposed of rubbish beside a rural road. That single mistake gave investigators something the vault had not: names. Outside Antwerp, a local resident noticed rubbish discarded on rural land. The material did not appear ordinary. Inside were documents, packaging, receipts, and other items that investigators connected to the diamond district. Some accounts also describe food remains from which biological evidence could be recovered. One piece of paper carried information linked directly to Notarbartolo. The contrast was extraordinary. Inside Antwerp, the gang had approached the operation with patience and technical discipline. Outside the city, a single disposal decision exposed their connection to the robbery. Belgian authorities moved quickly. Within days, several suspects had been arrested. Contemporary reports described the detention of Italian and Dutch suspects connected to rented office space in the building. Notarbartolo was no longer merely the familiar tenant who had lost valuables like everyone else. He became the central figure in the investigation. Belgian prosecutors built their case through the recovered evidence, access records, office arrangements, and connections among the suspects. Notarbartolo was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Other alleged participants also received prison sentences, although not every individual believed to have been involved was captured. Yet a conviction did not solve the crime's largest remaining mystery. The diamonds were gone. Authorities never recovered the overwhelming majority of the stolen valuables. Diamonds are uniquely difficult to trace once separated from their original documentation. They can be moved across borders, recut, and divided into smaller quantities. The people connected to the robbery faced prison. But the financial result of the heist remained largely untouched. Years after the robbery, Notarbartolo offered a different interpretation. He claimed that the theft was connected to an insurance scheme and suggested that the true value taken was lower than publicly reported. Authorities did not accept that account, and no conclusive evidence has established that the heist was secretly organized by diamond merchants. His story introduced an attractive conspiracy. What if the gang had not been the only group benefiting? But a dramatic theory is not the same as evidence. Notarbartolo had an obvious reason to minimize the scale of the crime or shift responsibility toward unidentified insiders. The insurance theory remains part of the heist's mythology without replacing the established court findings. More than 2 decades later, the most valuable evidence remains absent. The diamonds have never been substantially recovered. Some may have entered international markets. Some may have been recut. Others may remain hidden or held by people never publicly identified. The robbery was solved enough to punish people. It was never solved enough to restore what was taken. The Antwerp diamond heist demonstrated that no security system can be treated as permanently unbeatable. Every safeguard is designed around assumptions, and the gang spent years discovering which assumptions could be exploited. The vault did not stop them. A discarded bag of rubbish did. What do you believe really happened? Was the heist successful because the gang defeated advanced technology, or because the building trusted someone who had spent years pretending to belong? Please subscribe to Mysterious Crime, like this video, share it with someone who loves documentaries, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next investigation. Every mystery has a story.